here if you want. We'll see how I do. Those of you who've been in my classes and heard my lectures over the years will see this as familiar, and hopefully if you're older you've lost enough brain cells as I have so this might sound new again, you know. I think that might be how it happens. So I'm going to do something here, and we are it's Vicki, right? Yep. Vicki Pentecost is my right arm over here. Nice tall right arm. Would you just take Grandpa off there and let him sit on the table for a while? We're going to.
How does he come up?
Yeah, he just unhooks right there.
Hooked.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Whoop, whoop. Yep. Okay. See, that was a sudden death. See, this mobile does something different to me every single time. I was doing a presentation to a church group, and some of the kids that have been in our community grief program for a long time, they said, Janice, we can set that up. We can set that up. Just you go ahead and talk and start. I turn around and they got two guys at the top. Then they've got everything all mixed up, and I said, all right, now this is going to be a very different lecture than what we started. Anyway, here's the point. Now here's the visual. We've got Grandpa's gone now, slowly, quickly, and here's Grandma, and just look at where she's gone. We talk about various things happening here. She has some choices about what she does, but what is most likely is that she will become more involved with this middle generation. We talk about this, we have an emotional debt up here, or vacuum. However you want to, what words you use that work. But the whole idea is that now the generational boundaries are upset. And so here we have now her son and her daughter, here's her son and her daughter-in-law. Right now she's kind of going in the direction of the daughter-in-law. 3 weeks ago when I did this, she went right down there and the daughter-in-law and she were, boom! So I had a really different story to tell. This time, what we're seeing is that she's down here at this generation, and two things can happen. One of them is that her son, he's a good guy, he's been well raised. This son may think that he should try to take Dad's place, that he should now watch out for Mom, make that his primary function. So he leaves here. I think I have this. If I don't, you can rescue me. He leaves here emotionally and in time-wise even, spends more and more time with Mom. Now we can say, what's wrong with that? Well, I can tell you what's wrong with that. I think I do need you. I hate to admit that I need help. Anybody like that in this room? Yeah, good. I see hands. You see, he would be a good son, and he's worried about her. Right? So he tries to see if she's okay. She's at her house a lot. And then that leaves what we call an emotional debt or a vacuum here now at the middle generation. And let's assume, and again, we're giving these people all kinds of credit of being kind of average bears. You know, they're pretty well, not perfect, but they're pretty okay. Still, this can happen. She now, the emotional debt or the vacuum is here in this middle generation. What can come from that? What can come from that is, let's just give her the benefit of the doubt. She's a very wonderful person. She feels sorry for her mother-in-law, who now does not have a partner, while she still does have a partner. And so she tries to be a good sport about this, but it gets old. She's got 3 kids, and he's busy looking after Mom. And so we think about what can happen here. A couple of things can happen. This may level out with time, and I want to emphasize in the beginning, of course it's like this. It becomes a family problem or becomes problematic within the family when it persists, when this pattern continues on. She's hanging here without the help of the partner in the same way that she had him before. So a couple things can happen, and one of the most common, and one I've seen the most, is that this oldest daughter begins to feel this need, and she starts to function to help Mom. Again, she's a good kid, and she sees that Mom needs help. Mom starts to depend on her more, perhaps, and to bring her up to the adult level. As you can see, she's not capable. She's not heavy enough. She's not heavy enough to fill that role that her dad filled, but she's up there nonetheless. So then we have this next internal family system, internal family world problem, and that is we've got one kid acting as if or trying to be a parent, function at that level. And that messes things up down here, because before this, heretofore, as they say, before Grandpa's death, the kids were equal. They were on the same plane, and there was a mom and dad parenting them. So you can see we have an issue here. The other thing that can happen, and let's just say that this young woman does not go up there and try to function as an adult. She stays at this level. Where does mom go? And this gives us hints about another family, I want to say dysfunctional pattern that can occur, and that is that mom gets down here and she gets too close. We have that clinical term of enmeshed, which means too tight, too close. You could call it over-loving if you want to be generous and gentle. But it's the same idea, that's too close. And so that can happen right here. She can get too tight with any one of her three kids, usually the little one, sometimes the middle one. And when that happens, the child, and I am assuming most of you have seen this, a child will begin to soothe their parent very early. My earliest case that I remember of that, there was a man, his wife, and a little boy. And he was maybe 2 or a little more than 2, going on right in that age group. The mother was kind of the engineer of the household, and she's the one who died. And that left Dad, who was a follower and not terribly competent in some ways, and destroyed by his wife's death. The little boy and the dad are in my office, and as soon as Dad began to cry, as soon as he started to show his upsetness, made me think of that as we're listening to the attachment theory lecture yesterday, as soon as Dad started to cry, this little boy was all over him, giving him hugs and sitting by him, and of course he could have done other things and be distracting and try to be naughty to get Dad's attention. But no, he was moving into that, I'm the emotional caretaker of you. And when that pattern persists, these kids have trouble launching. It's like they somehow know internally, and I watch families where somebody's had difficulty leaving home, and there's almost always a pattern like this, where because they sense the emotional needs of their parents, they somehow don't feel safe. I think it's sometimes the root of separation anxiety. It's not about the kid, it's about the parent, or it's really both of them, but the idea is, I know my mom's not okay if I don't stay home with her. That kind of an idea. So you can see, we're going to leave them disturbed here, you can see that any number of things can happen. And when we're mindful of the boundaries, and that people function in the levels where they belong,